One of the wildest ideas you will find on the internet is the claim that the moon is not real at all. Instead, some people believe it is just a giant hologram, like a 3D projection in the sky. According to this theory, what we see at night is only an illusion. People who believe this idea point to what they think are strange things about the moon. For example, they say it looks too perfectly round, that the same side always faces Earth, and that in some old space photos, you cannot see any stars. Some even say they have seen lunar waves, a ripple-like effect on the moon, which they claim proves it is only a projection. Scientists, however, obviously disagree. There is of course plenty of proof that the moon is real. Astronauts have walked on its surface and brought back moon rocks. Machines placed there during the Apollo mission recorded moonquakes, which could only happen on a solid object. The moon's gravity also affects Earth by creating tides in the oceans and helping keep our planet's tilt steady. Even though the hologram theory is not backed up by any real evidence, it still spreads online because it sounds mysterious and exciting. It shows how people are sometimes drawn to ideas that feel sacred or magical, even if they are not true. The birds aren't real conspiracy theory is one of the strangest and most satirical movements to gain attention in recent years. It claims that birds are not living animals, but government surveillance drones created to spy on the public. According to this theory, real birds were eradicated in the mid-20th century, allegedly through mass extermination programs, and replaced with mechanical replicas that mimic natural bird behavior. These supposed bird drones are said to recharge by perching on power lines, which, according to proponents, explains why birds are often seen gathering there. Supporters of this idea claim that the United States government began this program as early as the 1950s, with full implementation by the 1970s. They allege that bird movements, songs, and even waste are artificial features designed to maintain the illusion of living creatures. While the theory has spread widely online, much of its popularity comes from its intentional absurdity. Despite its satirical nature, the theory has been embraced by some as a symbolic critique of government surveillance and the unquestioning acceptance of bizarre claims when presented with enough conviction. The Mandela Effect describes a situation where large groups of people remember an event, name, or detail differently from the documented reality. Paranormal researcher Fiona Broom coined the term in 2009 after discovering that many people, like herself, incorrectly remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison during the 1980s. In truth, Mandela was released in 1990 and passed away in 2013. This shared false memory led to broader discussions about how large groups could recall the same inaccurate details. Examples of the Mandela Effect extend far beyond historical events. Many people remember the Monopoly Man wearing a monocle, though he never did. The famous Star Wars line is often recalled as Luke, I am your father, when the actual quote is no, I am your father. The children book series Berenstain Bears is frequently remembered as Berenstain Bears with an E. Some even vividly recall a 1990s movie titled Shazam starring Sinbad as a genie, a film that never existed. These consistent misrememberings suggest patterns in how human memory works. Psychologists explain the Mandela Effect as a result of memory errors and the influence of social reinforcement. When a false detail is repeated and discussed widely, it can become embedded in people's memories as fact. On the other hand, some believe this phenomenon could be evidence of alternate realities or parallel timelines, where memories from one reality cross into another. While this idea remains speculative, it fascinates many because it challenges the assumption that reality is fixed and unchanging. The Great Replacement theory is a controversial and widely debunked idea, claiming that the demographic makeup of certain countries, specifically in Europe and North America, is being deliberately changed. According to this theory, political elites, global organizations, or powerful interest groups are encouraging large-scale immigration from non-European countries with the goal of replacing the existing native or majority populations. The term was popularized by French writer Renaud Camus in his 2011 book, Le Grand Replacement. Camus argued that a combination of immigration, lower birth rates among native populations, and cultural shifts would eventually lead to a complete transformation of national identities. Proponents of the theory often link this idea to a broader fear of losing cultural traditions, political influence. Supporters point to visible demographic changes in cities and regions as supposed evidence, often citing statistics on migration, birth rates, and cultural integration. Critics, however, highlight that the theory relies on selective data, ignores the historical reality of migration and cultural exchange, and distorts demographic trends. Mainstream demographics note that population shifts occur for complex reasons, such as economic opportunity, conflict, and globalization, not because of a coordinated plot. Despite lacking credible evidence, the Great Replacement theory has been referenced by extremist groups and has been linked to acts of violence, including mass shootings. Perpetrators cited it as a motivation. Many governments and human rights organizations warn that it fuels racism, xenophobia, and social division. While it remains a fringe belief in academic and political circles, the theory continues to circulate widely online, where it is framed by supporters as a defense of cultural survival and by opponents as a dangerous form of modern-day propaganda. The dome theory is a fringe belief rooted in certain interpretations of the flat Earth model. According to this idea, the Earth is not a sphere suspended in the vacuum of space, but a flat plane enclosed by a vast, impenetrable dome. Proponents often cite religious texts, specifically from the Book of Genesis, which describes the firmament as a solid barrier, separating the waters above from the earth below. They claim this dome is a physical structure that prevents humans from leaving the planet and blocks any direct contact with space. Supporters of the dome theory believe that space travel is an elaborate hoax, created by governments and space agencies. They argue that images of Earth from space are fabricated through CGI and that rocket launches curve not to reach orbit, but to disappear from public view. In their view, the stars, planets, and even the moon are not massive celestial bodies millions of miles away, but lights or projections embedded in or onto the dome itself. While mainstream science firmly rejects these claims, considering them inconsistent with centuries of verified evidence, the dome theory has gained traction in certain online communities. To its followers, the concept is not merely about the Earth's shape, but about exposing what they see as a massive cover-up to hide humanity's true place in the universe. The Philadelphia experiment is one of the most famous conspiracy theories linked to World War II. The story claims that in October 1943, the US Navy carried out a secret experiment on the USS Eldridge at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. According to the legend, the Navy tried to make the ship invisible to radar. Some accounts go further, insisting the ship disappeared completely, teleported to Norfolk, and then reappeared in Philadelphia. The tale became more disturbing with claims that sailors were injured, fused into the ship's structure, or driven insane. The story first surfaced in the 1950s, when a merchant marine named Carl Meredith Allen wrote letters to UFO researcher Morris Jessup. Allen described witnessing the event and suggested it was based on Albert Einstein's unified field theory. The Navy has always denied the experiment ever happened, pointing out that the claims contradict the laws of physics. Historians and scientists also highlight that the accounts are inconsistent and based on questionable sources. Many researchers believe the story stemmed from confusion about real naval practices. Despite being debunked, the Philadelphia experiment theory survives, not because of evidence, but because it reflects Cold War secrecy, fear of advanced weapons, and fascination with the boundaries of science. The Montauk Project is a conspiracy theory that combines Cold War secrecy with science fiction-style speculation. It is centered on Camp Hero, a decommissioned military base on Long Island. According to the story, the site was the location of classified government experiments involving mind control, time travel, teleportation, and even contact with extraterrestrials. Some versions claim the experiments also include fabricating the Apollo moon landings. The tale became widely known after the 1992 book, The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time, by Preston Nichols and Peter Moon. Nichols claimed he had recovered suppressed memories of working at the base on projects involving psychic children, advanced technology, and experiments that opened portals to other dimensions. Other people later came forward with similar claims, though none were supported by evidence. Critics argue the story is likely fictional, pointing out the lack of documentation and the fact that the accounts only surfaced decades after the supposed events. Camp Hero itself adds fuel to the legend. Built during World War II and later used during the Cold War, the base was closed in the 1980s and turned into a state park. Its radar tower still stands, and several buildings disguised as part of a fishing village contribute to its mysterious reputation. Today, the Montauk Project endures not as proven history, but as a modern myth. Among the more sensational conspiracy theories is the claim that Nazi Germany built a secret base in Antarctica, equipped with advanced UFO technology. According to the story, high-ranking Nazis fled there after World War II, hiding in a remote outpost where they continued experimenting with futuristic aircraft. These were said to be flying saucer-like machines, capable of defying modern aviation limits. This theory draws loosely from historical facts. Germany did send an expedition to Antarctica in 1938 and 1939, led by Alfred Richer, which surveyed a region known as New Swabia. The official purpose was resource exploration and whaling interest. The expedition included aerial surveys and flag painting, but there was no evidence of military bases or UFO construction. Despite this, conspiracy writers seized on the expedition as proof of something hidden beneath the ice. The narrative expanded after World War II when the United States launched Operation High Jump in 1946 and 1947. This large naval mission, which involved dozens of ships and aircraft, was officially described as a training and research expedition. Conspiracy theorists, however, argued it was actually an attempt to locate and destroy a surviving Nazi base. Some even claim nuclear weapons were used, though no credible records support such a claim. Experts and historians have repeatedly debunked the idea. Naval records, wartime documents, and geological studies showed no sign of advanced weapon facilities or extraterrestrial technology in Antarctica. Even so, the myth endures. The dead internet theory is a modern conspiracy that suggests the internet as we know it stopped being real around 2016. According to this idea, most of the content people consume online today is not created by humans at all, but by artificial intelligence. Opponents argue that government agencies, corporations, or even shadowy organizations have filled websites, comment sections, and social media feeds with bots, manufactured discussions, and algorithm-generated posts. The theory builds on the feeling many internet users share that platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and Reddit became strangely repetitive around this time, with recycled content and lifeless conversations dominating the space. Supporters point to odd patterns, such as viral videos with millions of views but almost no genuine discussion, or strangely generic articles that feel mass-produced. They also note how the rise of AI-driven recommendation systems in 2016 coincided with the decline in what they feel like authentic communities. Critics, however, explain these changes through the rapid commercialization of the internet, as advertising revenue became the driving force of online platforms. Algorithms were designed to maximize engagement and profit, not to foster creativity or originality. This naturally pushed repetitive, formula-driven content to the forefront. Although there is no evidence that the internet has literally been taken over by bots, the theory resonates because it reflects a genuine cultural concern. Many people feel nostalgic for the early days of the web, when forums and blogs felt alive with real human voices. Whether the theory is a literal truth or not, it raises a serious question about how much of our online experience is genuinely social, and how much is engineered by systems designed to keep us scrolling. The Hollow Earth theory is one of the most fascinating ideas in the history of science and myth. For centuries, cultures around the world imagined hidden realms beneath our feet. Ancient Greeks spoke of the underworld, Norse mythology described Nidavellir, and Hindu traditions told of Patala, a vast subterranean world. These myths provided fertile grounds for later theories that try to give the idea a scientific explanation. In 1692, astronomer Edmund Halley suggested that Earth might not be solid but instead made up of concentric layers, like spheres nested inside one another. He based this on unusual magnetic readings he observed. The concept gained attention again in the early 1800s, when John Cleve Sims Jr. claimed that Earth was hollow, with massive openings at the North and South Poles. Sims described this inner world as habitable and rich with resources, possibly even home to unknown civilizations. Although explorers searched for such openings, no evidence was ever found. As science advanced, the theory lost credibility. Modern geology and physics provide clear evidence of Earth's structure. Seismic waves, which are measured during earthquakes, travel differently through solid and liquid layers. These recordings reveal a solid inner core, a thick mantle, and a crust. A hollow planet would show completely different seismic patterns. Gravity also proves the planet is dense. If Earth were hollow, its gravity would be far weaker than what we experience. Even so, the hollow Earth theory has never fully disappeared. The belief that Australia is not real is one of the strangest internet conspiracy theories to ever gain traction. It began as a satirical hoax on social media, but has since developed into a full-fledged conspiracy for some corners of the internet. According to this theory, Australia does not exist as a physical place. Instead, it is said to be an elaborate fabrication created by world governments, especially Britain, to hide the truth about penal colonies and mass killings. The claim suggests that when Britain supposedly sent convicts to Australia in the 18th century, they were actually executed at sea, and the story of Australia was invented to cover it up. Modern versions of the theory claim that anyone who insists they are from Australia is either an actor or has been deceived by manipulated maps and staged travel experiences. Some argue that flights to Australia do not actually exist, and passengers are flown to remote islands or parts of South America instead. The idea gained traction online because of its absurdity, with many people spreading it as a joke or a meme. However, like many conspiracies, some individuals embraced it as truth, treating it as proof that governments stage global-scale deceptions. Critics easily dismiss this theory, pointing out the overwhelming evidence of Australia's existence. Millions of people live there, countless photographs and satellite images confirm its geography, and millions of tourists visit the country every year. Still, the Australia is fake theory has managed to persist because it taps into a wider distrust of authority and fascination with questioning reality itself. One of the strangest and most enduring conspiracy theories in popular culture is the claim that Paul McCartney, the legendary bassist of the Beatles, died in 1966 and was secretly replaced by a lookalike. This theory began circulating in the late 1960s, gaining momentum after a Michigan college student published an article in his school paper suggesting that clues could be found in the band's music and album covers. Supporters of the theory argue that Paul died in a car crash, and that the Beatles, under pressure to continue their global success, staged a cover-up by recruiting a double named William Campbell, sometimes referred to as Billy Shears. From this point, fans began pointing to supposed evidence. For example, on the cover of Abbey Road, Paul is shown barefoot and out of step with other band members, which may interpret as a funeral procession. Lyrics such as "he blew his mind out in a car" from A Day in the Life were also seen as hints. Despite decades of speculation, Paul McCartney has consistently dismissed the theory as false, even joking about it in interviews. Over time, Paul is dead became less a serious belief, and more of a cultural phenomenon that reflects how fans search for hidden meanings in art. The phantom time hypothesis is a historical conspiracy theory proposed by German historian Heribert Illig in the 1990s. It suggests that nearly 300 years of history, specifically between 614 and 911, were entirely fabricated. According to this theory, the early Middle Ages, also called as the Dark Ages, never actually happened, and the current calendar year is centuries ahead of the true date. Illig claims that key figures such as Charlemagne were not real but rather invented by medieval rulers and chroniclers. He argued that historical documents from this period are suspiciously scarce, architectural advancements were limited, and that inconsistencies in dating methods, such as radiocarbon and astronomical observations, point toward a large-scale fabrication. Illig's central idea was that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII conspired to alter the calendar to place themselves in what they saw as the significant year of 1000. By doing so, they effectively added 297 years to history that never took place. Historians have widely rejected this hypothesis, pointing out that archaeological evidence from Asia, the Middle East, and other parts of the world aligns with the accepted timeline, making a worldwide fabrication nearly impossible. Structures like the Tang Dynasty's development in China and Mayan calendars in the Americas contradict Illig's claims. Still, the phantom time hypothesis remains an intriguing example of how historical gaps and ambiguities can inspire bold theories. Project Bluebeam is one of the most bizarre conspiracy theories to emerge, in the late 20th century, first popularized in the 1990s by journalist Serge Monast. The theory claims that NASA, along with global elites, is planning a staged alien invasion or a simulated second coming of Christ. According to Monast, this project would use advanced holographic technology to project massive images into the sky, convincing people that a divine or extraterrestrial event is taking place. The ultimate goal, he argued, would be to unite humanity under a single world government and eliminate independent religions. The theory outlines several stages. First, historical and religious knowledge would be manipulated to create confusion. Second, giant holograms would be projected in the sky across different regions of the world, tailored to each culture's beliefs. Third, the simulation of telepathic communication would convince people that divine voices were speaking directly to them. Finally, a false global catastrophe would be staged, which would lead to the acceptance of a new world order. Mainstream science dismisses Project Bluebeam as pure fiction. There is no evidence that NASA has the capability to project such global holograms, nor that such technology could realistically deceive billions of people simultaneously. Despite the lack of proof, Project Bluebeam remains widely discussed on internet forums and in conspiracy communities. The theory of a lost Tartarian or Hadral civilization has become one of the most popular internet-based conspiracy ideas in recent years. Believers argue that there once existed a global empire known as Tartaria, stretching across much of Eurasia, and has been deliberately erased from history. According to the theory, much of what we call ancient or classical architecture, such as ornate cathedrals, government buildings, and even old world expositions, were actually creations of this advanced civilization. The claim is that government and historians have worked together to cover up Tartaria's existence to maintain control over our understanding of the past. One of the central arguments made by Tartaria believers is the mud flood theory. They suggest that many historic buildings appear partially buried because a worldwide flood of mud wiped out Tartaria's cities, leaving only fragments behind. Supporters also point to supposed anomalies in old maps and historical records that show the word Tartaria as proof of its existence. Mainstream historians, however, reject these claims. Tartaria was not an empire, but rather a name in the past used to describe large, little-known regions of Central Asia and Siberia. The supposed architectural evidence can be explained by European styles popular in the 18th and 19th centuries, not by a lost civilization. Similarly, the mud flood can be explained by natural erosion, urban development, or building practices of the time. Still, the myth of Tartaria continues to grow online, combining skepticism toward institutions with fascination for a hidden history. It reflects how easily history can be reimagined in the digital age, where unanswered questions quickly fuel belief in suppressed truths. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned something, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the conspiracy theories I discussed in this video, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 3 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.